Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel where stories and other random things take center stage and imagination is prized above all. Welcome to today's video. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic morning and will continue to have a wonderful rest of your day. So, today's video, I am finally reviewing A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I hope you guys are enjoying the Sarah J. Maas content because I definitely want to make more of that, especially in 2022. I'm really excited because this is literally my favorite ACOTAR book. This is my favorite book in ACOTAR because this is literally like my favorite romance so far. My favorite romances. I should rank romances like as my top 10 for Sarah J. Maas because I am Maas trash and I will read anything Sarah J. Maas writes. So I love it. Anyway, here's the Goodreads synopsis. Sarah J. Maas's sexy, richly imagined Court of Thorns and Roses series continues with the journey of Feyre's fiery sister Nesta. Nesta Archeron has always been prickly, proud, swift to anger, and slow to forgive. And since the war, since being made High Fae against her will, she's struggled to forget the horrors she endured and find a place for herself within the strange and deadly Night Court. The person who ignites her temper more than any other is Cassian, the battle-scarred winged warrior who is there at Nesta's every turn. But her temper isn't the only thing Cassian ignites, and when they are forced to train in battle together, sparks become flame. As the threat of war casts its shadow over them once again, Nesta and Cassian must fight monsters from within and without if they are to stand a chance of halting the enemies of their court. But the ultimate risk will be searching for acceptance and healing in each other's arms. I just want to say that I definitely, like, reading this makes me think, like, reading this description just reminds me of how cute their romance is. Like, this is a favorite. I love it. By the way, I don't expect any spoilers at the moment, but if I go into them, I'm gonna let you know. All right? Awesome? Great. I love this book. I love it a lot because we are away from Feyre and we're away from the perfection of Feyre and Rhys because they're basically like the perfect romance, which I'm okay with. I like them, but I also find myself liking more of I find myself liking more Nesta and Cassian better. Like if I were to I feel like if I was to rank Sarah J. Maas romances, I feel like Feyre and Rhys's would probably be like my least favorite. So I don't know. I feel like they were my least favorite books. But I feel like we're away from, their perfect circle, their perfect everything. We're away from that and we get to see them from the outside and how other people perceive them. Not as readers because we love them. But oh shoot, okay, sorry. I do have to check time though because I have to go at 12. And it's anyway. So we are in the perception of outsiders. Like Cassian sees them as great, like he loves them. They're his high lord and high lady, and he has high respect. While Nesta has more complex feelings of both of them. She doesn't feel like Rhys is her high lord. She doesn't feel like she owes him any respect, which makes sense. It is very much a perfect feeling, I think, that she doesn't feel like she owes him any respect because she barely knows him. And yeah, that's her sister's mate, but that doesn't mean that she knows him. However, Nesta is also, taking advantage of their kindness, which leads to the intervention that they all make. Now, I do feel like it was a bit of a forceful intervention, and I feel like it wasn't a well done intervention. I honestly do not like Rhysand and Amryn in this book at all. I feel like, but then again, we're seeing them from an outsider's point of view, which is great. But like, I do not like Rhysand and Amryn in this book at all, just because I feel like it's nothing like how they used to be. Amryn is still kind of like they used to be, but Rhys would control a little bit more of that before. Like, she was a little bit more controlled with some of that stuff. But now, Amryn is a lot harsher in this book for some reason. And Rhysand is also kind of more annoying in this book, too. There is little I like about Rhysand in this book. I do not like him in this book at all. Especially with the way he hides the truth from Feyre about her pregnancy and how risky it is. And considering the bargain they made. I think Feyre is fine in this book. I have heard people that I have seen reviews where they fully don't like Feyre because she's not like, she wanted to do stuff and now she ended up being like a stay-at-home mom, which is like kind of like when I haven't seen it compared to the whole thing with Tamlin, like the way he wanted her to be, but I have seen that, you know, now she just like fought the war and now she's a stay-at-home mom, it seems. But I feel like this is the perfect arc ending for her because she seems, you know, she's happy. She's also doing the work that she likes. She still rules the night court. She still takes part in it. She just also now has a kid. It seems okay, I think. I think also people didn't enjoy it because I think in A Court of Wings and Ruin, yeah, it was in A Court of Wings and Ruin, she said that she didn't want to have children yet. She wanted to enjoy herself with Rhys and see what would happen, but now she has a child. So now she just had a child. But also, I think it was in A Court of Frost and Starlight, if I remember correctly, she did say after the war and after seeing the weaver that she bought like the thread, this like tapestry from of hope, and how like she had no children there. I don't feel like I'm fully spoiling this, so that's why I haven't warned for spoilers, but that this weaver had no children, but to remember her husband, like she had no other, her mate, I'm sorry, she had like no other way to remember him, and she thought she would have more years. I guess she felt like she wanted to have a child. So she, you know, they agreed to just have children in A Court of Frost and Starlight. So at the end of the day, it was all kind of, it makes sense, at least to me, why that worked out for Feyre. Now, I also felt it was great at the end when even Amryn called Rhysand and Feyre stupid fools for making that stupid bargain. Now, that's a thing I wanted to talk about. I remember mentioning in Kingdom of Ash that I wanted to talk about this because it seems to show up in both books. So in Kingdom of Ash, it came up twice. I don't think, no, Rowan and Aelin didn't outright make something like that, but they did say I think they wanted to go together or find themselves. But like, they didn't outright make like a bargain or whatever. Like, they didn't tie their lives to each other, the same way that Irene and Kale did. In their case, I kind of forgive it because she did it to save his life, so it makes sense that they would go together. But with Lorcan and Elide, I felt like that was a jump too far. So now it kind of comes back, right? It comes back where Feyre and Rhysand made a bargain that they would leave the world together. And it turns out to be a horrible, stupid idea because when... spoilers here, by the way. I'm going to just start talking a little bit in spoilers. But because when Feyre gives birth and she's about to die, Rhys was going to die too. So who would they have left in charge of the Night Court? I mean, yeah, sorry, it would have been great in Cassian and Rhysand's hands. It would probably be in Amryn's hands, actually, and it would have been just fine. And I feel like if it was in Amryn's hands, I feel like she would take advantage and just destroy the Hewn City, just because of the things that they did to Mor, which I would applaud her for. But like, it was still a stupid idea. right? I mean, they're lucky that Nesta kind of like in her arc ended up saving her sister and the baby, but like it's just so it was stupid. I also did the one thing I will say critique about this book is that it is supposed to be about Nesta, and although I understand how this actually would be about Nesta, I didn't like that at the end it went back to Feyre. I think that it should have just stayed with Nesta and Cassian, and it shouldn't have had to. There shouldn't really have been a plot point or a plot line with Feyre in it. I think Feyre should have been as least involved as possible. So I do think that the fact that it came back to Feyre at the end, I understand the pros to it, and also but I also feel like because it should have stayed with Nesta and not gone back to Feyre because it feels like Feyre is too much of the center of attention here. I can see how it would work because technically she took care of them as they were even when Nesta probably should have. But the fact that I went back to Feyre kind of just I don't know what annoys me usually. But I enjoyed the romance between Cassian and Nesta. I love the Dread Troves plot line. It was really interesting how the Cauldron powers came to play and how she had to uh, hunt like the Dread Troves and the Dread Trove items, and how she herself created her own Dread Trove by accident. I thought that was really cool. I enjoyed I liked Azrael in this book. He was really interesting. And I like the introduction of a new female unit known as the Valkyries. Well, they were a thing, and now Nesta wants to like put them, like make another one because the Valkyries unfortunately died in the war, and it seems like the others, anyone who was left, may have disappeared. They don't know anything about them. So I found it really interesting. I loved it a lot. And what else? What else? What else? Um, I love the plot line, especially with Brialyn. I like the way that she just was defeated. I think her defeat was like so good. I enjoyed it. I like villains that can are just villains as well as villains with a really awesome backstory. But Brialyn was just like, I wanna be young and pretty again. So I'm going to destroy you and ally with this Death Lord. Like that was just her. And I was okay with that. I highly enjoyed it. I really did. Especially the ending and defeat. I found it really interesting. I loved once again, like in Throne of Glass, we get confirmation of separate worlds here with the harp, which suggests there are perhaps 26 other worlds in this universe. And I'm pretty excited for that because that would mean that there are many, many, many possibilities, especially for crossovers. I think the Massverse is huge. And I'll talk about that in House of Sky and Breath because that became a thing. And I am curious how that's going to go. But also, one more thing about Cassian and Nesta's romance, so much smut. There's a lot of smut, a lot of sex scenes. It's just it's a lot. I mean, it starts off in like a really good way. There's a lot of sex scenes, and Mrs. Sarah Janet Moss. I'm into it. I enjoyed it a lot. This is like I think this is the smuttiest book she's ever written, and I'm into it. I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome. What other plot lines did I enjoy? Oh man, Stretchos. I didn't. Um. Oh, my favorite trope comes up here. Sarah J. Maas happens to use this one a lot in pretty much all her books. This was a thing, and that is the found family trope. I love it. I love this so much. I loved it with Aelin a lot when she had kind of like her newfound family, especially after everything. I really loved it with Feyre in A Court of Mist and Fury. I loved it with Bryce in Crescent City. And I loved it so much with Nesta. I think the found family trope with Nesta was just amazing. I think it was lovely and beautiful. Especially because it was just like her and these two friends, like her found family was Gwen and Emery. I feel like Elaine will also have a found family trope, and it'll have to do with Noella and Caradwyn. But I can't wait to read that. But like I loved it with Nesta. I think with Nesta it felt really interesting. All of them went through different forms of trauma, and I felt it was interesting, especially at the end when they kind of all confessed their trauma in the blood rites, and how they're like, you're not alone. Like, I'm gonna be here and we're gonna do this. Like, what? We're doing this. I loved the female support in this book. That's one of the things I love best about Sarah J. Maas writing. There's a lot of female support, like female toward female support. I enjoy it a lot. I don't always see it, and I loved it. I love another thing. I just want to say, can I live in the House of Wind? Please, can that be real? Because the House of Wind is the ideal best friend. The House of Wind wants to take care of you, and it's also the ideal roommate. She wants to read books with you. The House of Wind is into romance novels. I would love it. She sounds like she would be awesome, like to recommend romance books. Like, what? I would be into it. The House of Wind is like your bookish bestie. Not to mention your bestie, but like also your bookish bestie. I would be into it. I want to live in the House of Wind and read all the romance books she recommends, and have like hot chocolate and cake or whatever, and have like that. Like, one of my favorite parts, I think the most beautiful moment was when Nesta like invited Emery and Gwen for a read-in, but they had like this sleepover. And the House of Wind was basically like part of the sleepover. The House of Wind basically became their friend in a way, and would like indulge them in these random requests. Like, they were even in these like tubs with bubbles, with like these illusions for animals, and the one with Nesta was like a miniature Pegasus, and I thought that was so adorable. That was great. That was a great scene. And one of the things I liked about the House of Wind too was like the fact that, besides the fact that it was magical and just took care of everybody, is the way that it definitely took care of Nesta, because we find out from Amryn that she came in to the House of Wind with the wish of finding a friend, and the House of Wind became that friend. But also Amryn says Nesta brought the House of Wind to life, because the house wouldn't always answer. And when Amryn spoke to the house, it answered back, and it gave her, she ended up getting like a pile of romance books, but it answered back. And I thought that was amazing. That was amazing that Nesta, even in her darkness, somehow, found this friend who, like, this like inanimate object friend that just like brought her to life, but also brought the house to life. I thought that was really interesting, especially because there's a part in the book where, specifically in Winter Solstice, as a gift, I guess, the house shows Nesta her darkness. It turns out the house itself has its darkness. I wonder if it has anything to do with Bryaxis. I really do wonder if it has anything to do with Bryaxis, who has not been found, right? So I do wonder if it has anything to do with Bryaxis, who is mentioned, and Clotho, the head priestess, says that Bryaxis never hurt them. She said she thinks that Bryaxis felt like, that they were hurt enough and understood, so it never hurt them. And I wonder if the house's darkness has anything to do with Bryaxis in general. But the house itself showed her its darkness, and Nesta understood. Like, when you were showing us that darkness, you were trying to show us yourself. You were trying to be our friend, because me and the priestess are just like you. And the house was like, yeah, I'm trying to be your friend. I'm trying to show you that I'm just like you and that I understand. And I think that is a great thing to write and give the house character. I love the house as a character. Fun fact, it's the House of Wind, even though what I did with, what I wrote it differently in The Traveler's Curse, it is in the house that Gwen lives in Declan, the estate, it actually was inspired by the House of Wind, but it's very differently written, but it was inspired by it. So think about it that way. Like, the House of Wind also gave me inspiration, but the House of Wind is just like really great. I think it's good to write about darkness in general, and how we can, we all go through it, and we can all understand each other's darkness and be there for each other, and understand that we're not always alone. And I think that's something that's worth writing about. And I was very, very happy that the house basically represented that, and the house's characters represented that. Like, the House of Wind was amazing. I want to live in the House of Wind and read a bunch of romance books and talk to my bookish bestie about like what romance scene I liked. I feel like the House of Wind is just perfect. It's literally like the perfect fangirl. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I loved it though. Anyway, those are all my random thoughts about A Court of Silver Flames. Um, so I want to reread all these books again, especially after reading House of Sky and Breath, and maybe make predictions and theories, because definitely Kingdom of Ash made references to the, there is a reference to Kingdom of Ash in this book, and there is a reference in Kingdom of Ash to this book as well, because in Kingdom of Ash, Aelin ends up traveling to Prythia and to the Night Court in general, and Rhys kind of helps her out, and we see Feyre pregnant in the Kingdom of Ash. We also get mentioned of a red star that came back, and people thinking maybe it was like a bad omen or something, and how it left Rhys perplexed. And yes, it was confirmed in a live stream. I remember watching it, that the red star is Aelin. So Aelin went there, Aelin traveled there trying to get back home after putting in the lock and sending the gods to like this other world, so that this other world instead of their own. So it is, we know that other worlds are a thing, and it is definitely, I'm pretty sure she definitely went through Crescent City as well. So it makes me wonder how they're all going to cross over. And I'm super curious how that's going to work out, how all of it is going to be a thing. Because this is super interesting, I feel. It's very interesting. The Maas verse itself is exciting. I think I need to do a couple of rereads on the Sarahverse, or the Maas verse, and make up my own theories. I definitely know there are other theories. Maybe I'll research some theories and put them here. I might have a hard time finding them, but I'm gonna try to do that. Maybe also make some theories on my own, questions. I don't know. We'll see. But those are my random thoughts on A Court of Silver Flames. So next week, I have two videos next week. A birthday video and a review of season 1 of Comey Can't Communicate. So look forward to those. I'll subscribe if you're interested in my content. I post once a week. Turn on notifications. So that you're aware when I release videos. Comment down below your thoughts on A Court of Silver Flames and any theories on the Sarahverse, because I'm up for it. I'll see you next week. Until then, consume stories like A Court of Thorns and Roses. Especially this one. It's my favorite. Definitely. Bye.